So we start with the chanting of the mantra Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We chant together. Take a deep breath in. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we continue our discussion. Did anyone have any time to read? Still affected by the no time disease? Listening.
I listened to the atom.
Uh-huh.
Very, very interesting.
Yes, the technical details are very interesting.
And about time.
Yes, Kala.
Element of time.
Yes. So those are technical details. And I think most of you may remember the first person who was created. Who was that? No, first, before that. Brahma. Yes. That's why we call the universe Brahmand. The meaning of Brahmand is Anda means what? What's the meaning of Anda? Yes. Right? Some say Anda, some say Inda. Right? So that means it's a part of the creation of Lord Brahma. The literal meaning is that Brahma's Anda, Brahma's creation. So Brahma was the first person who was created. Then, if you recall, in one of the sessions I said he had to do the tapasya because he could not find the cause of his creation, cause of his birth. So he sat in the lotus pose on the lotus which came out from the navel of Garbhodaksha Vishnu. So why did he start doing tapasya? What was the reason he started doing tapasya?
He wanted to know more. He didn't know why he was. Like you said.
Yeah, of course he wanted to find out the reason, the cause of his birth. But why particularly he started doing tapasya? What kind of indication, what thing was happening there that indicated, that gave him some kind of inspiration to do tapasya? What sound?
Sound of Om.
The sound of the waves. Tap, 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 right? So then he said tapasya. So see, from this basic fundamental principle of creation, can understand that so much importance is given our Vedic culture to austerity, tapasya. Like I had mentioned, that each year starts with tapasya, 9 days of vrata, Navaratri, right? So yes, enjoyment is there. The Vedas, they give us some information how to enjoy and which kind of deity should be worshipped if we want looking for some particular object in the material creation, right? So that information also is given. But to please that particular deity also, tapasya is required. It's not demand, right? Request. In a submissive way, you do the tapasya, then the deity, whoever deity you are worshipping to, whichever deity, that deity will be pleased, and then the deity will give you benediction, vardhan. So tapasya is very important. So after he did tapasya, then he could see Lord Vishnu. And then Lord Vishnu instructed him to do the job, creation. But before Lord Vishnu told him, when he saw Lord Vishnu's form, he offered very nice prayers, Brahma Samhita prayers, very nice, wonderful shlokas. He is saying, at the end of each shloka, he is saying that Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. So you are the original person, and I am worshipping you, I am surrendering to you. I glorify you. So then he, after offering the prayers, when Lord Vishnu was pleased with him, then Lord Brahma said that I feel so sorry for the living beings who get entangled. Now see, the creation has not taken place yet, right? Then how did Lord Brahma come to know about the living beings? That he was supposed to create different type of living beings. What made him think in that way? When we go to bed at night, next day when we wake up, some things come in our mind that what we are supposed to do during the day. What causes those kind of thoughts in our mind? What's the cause of those thoughts in our mind? Sorry? Impressions from the previous day, right? The activities which we could not complete the previous day, next day in the morning, first thought will come, we have to complete those. That means we were involved in those kind of activities before, correct? So the memory comes on the surface. So that means Lord Brahma must have done that kind of activity in his previous life as well, right? So that's why I said, the creation part is since time immemorial. So we should not dig into the past, that when it started. It's waste of time. Our focus should be on how to get off from here, instead of thinking of how we came here, right? Whenever there is any fire in any building, so at that time we don't try to find out what caused the fire. First you extinguish the fire, then you do the investigation, correct? So we have to learn from Brahma's experience that he already knew, it was in his memory, the impression was there in his heart that he has to do the same job. So then first it is said that he created 3 modes of nature, and before that also he created ignorance, deception, frustration, anger, and forgetfulness. Now all these things adjectives sound very negative, right? Now what was the reason that he created these things first? He himself did tapasya. So first he could have created meditation part, right? That's a logical thing to think. But he did not do that. He said that first he created forgetfulness, frustration, anger, deception. Why like that? Our material world is the perverted form of the spiritual world. In the spiritual world, the positive qualities manifest first, not the negative. In the material world, because it is perverted, opposite form of the spiritual world, first negative things come. And see, the Bollywood producers, directors, they learn from that Bhagavatam. First the villain comes and then the hero comes to do the act, right? And because it happens like that, it's a very human psychology. When we see the negative thing first and then the positive things happen, we appreciate it more, right? In Sindhi, there is a proverb, right? Dukha sukhanji suha. Have you heard that? Misery makes the pleasure part of our life more memorable, relishable. Dukha sukhanji suha. That means the sadness beautifies the pleasure. Otherwise, we won't appreciate. That's a human psychology. So these are the details, which we can learn from our scriptures, how human psychology works. First, present the negative part, and then people will appreciate the positive part. So there is a sequence, it is mentioned how Brahma created these things. First is forgetfulness. Why forgetfulness? Now here, many people, they try to improve their memory, right? Dementia, Alzheimer's, they become very miserable things. So people focus on improving the memory. But to allow the living entity to perform well in the material world, that forgetfulness plays a very important role. If everybody, if all of us, we remember, always, sometimes of course we remember, we come into in our senses, true senses, then we remember that. But most of the time we are forgetful. Because we are forgetful, we are able to act or perform or do our duties in the material world. Otherwise, everybody would take sannyas. Then how the material world?
But the memories
What?
many times is painful also.
What?
Memories in our normal life is also painful. I have experienced.
Depends what
Well,
we memorize.
I can't forget. How much I try, I can't forget. I pray God that I want to forget, and I think I will end up with Alzheimer, but not easy to forget. So it's also painful. The
Yes.
memories are painful.
And this also is the way our mind works. Any person or any incident we try to forget, our mind remembers that.
And we forget the good things, but we remember the bad things.
Yes.
And then
Because we keep on contemplating, we keep on pondering over those things, so they stay in our memory.
huh? We're giving fire to it.
Yes. Yes.
Agree.
Yeah. So, see, in that kind of situation also, when the memory becomes cause of misery, it's better to forget, right? So now the forgetfulness comes from Krishna. So instead of trying our own way, making more and more attempt to forget it, just pray to Krishna. Then he can help us to forget it. Or at least we may remember the incident, but it will not bother us the way it bothered when it happened actually. The influence of the incident will be there, but the effect we won't feel that much. Because that, the spiritual strength, when it improves, enhances, then the effect is much, much less. And that's actually the instructions given in our scriptures. Don't forget the incident. If anybody has caused any misery, forgive the person, but don't forget the incident. Remember the lesson and deal with the person accordingly. Right? This is not the world, where everybody has to be very sadhu, very saintly person. The more we try to become saintly, more and more misery comes, right? Miseries come, caused by other people, unfortunately. So yeah, so Brahma created these things. Forgetfulness, he created. And deception. Material world, whichever yuga we talk about, four main yugas, right? Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, and Kali Yuga. But as long as we are in the material world, it doesn't matter which yuga we are born in. Deception is always there. That's the quality of this material world. People are not so straightforward, right? And that's the reason that also, see, these kind of bad quality or negative qualities, they help the material world to keep on going. If everybody becomes very saintly, then there is no need for the material world. If everybody is abiding by the law of the land, then there is no need for prison house, right? But prison house is there because there are many miscreants, culprits, people with criminal mind. So from spiritual perspective, we belong to that category, generally, miscreants. That's why we are here. We did not want to abide by the law of the spiritual world. And that's why we are sent here. So Brahma created that. So forgetfulness, deception, frustration. Very common. Why do we get frustrated? What's the cause of frustration?
I don't get my way, so I'm frustrated.
Our false ego, right? We always think that we are superior to others. And we expect others to behave according to our way. Right? And when it doesn't happen, because each individual has his or her own free will. And they will use a free will. Nobody will act according to our will. And because it doesn't happen according to our will, we get frustrated. And when that frustration keeps on building up, then anger. Right? In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says why the person becomes angry. Does anyone remember? If you have read Bhagavad Gita?
Desires are not fulfilled.
Yes. It's karma. Right? The desire, when they are not fulfilled, person gets frustrated, angry. And when they get fulfilled, what happens?
More and more.
Sorry?
More desires will keep on increasing.
Greed. Yes. When any desires are fulfilled, then whatever we acquire, when our desire is fulfilled, we get attached to that object or any subject. Moha. Right? And then greed. To hold on to that object or subject for a very long time, eternally. And because of that greed, combination of greed and that attachment, intelligence is lost. Why it is said that intelligence is lost? Krishna says that person's intelligence is lost. Then also the forgetfulness comes. The intelligence is lost because we don't remember that awareness doesn't stay in our system for a very long time. That whatever we are acquiring, possessing, holding on to, these are temporary things. Our body itself is a temporary thing. But because of that lack of knowledge, because we identify ourselves with this body. So because of that lack of knowledge, ignorance, these things come one after the other. And forgetfulness also is the cause of our fall down. The person forgets his or her own original spiritual identity. And that is the binding factor that binds us to keep on coming to this material world, birth after birth. Right? Any comments so far what we have been talking about? Anything comes in your mind? Anything you remember? Your memory?
So these four qualities, memory loss, that's not a lot. But it's for our benefit, right? In the end, it's the purpose for us. It is good for us. That's why Brahma created it.
Of course. See, these things are very relative because we are living in the world of duality. This world is not absolute. So forgetfulness also depends in what context we are using. If a student going for the exam forgets something, you say forgetfulness is good. No problem. Doesn't work. So it depends on the situation. We have to apply according to that. We cannot apply the same qualities in all situations. So unwanted things should be forgotten if it is possible. And unnecessarily we should not get frustrated. But see, this knowledge, in spite of having this knowledge also, because our mind is conditioned in that way. When the situation comes, we are not able to stop these kind of feelings. These feelings will come. But if the awareness is there, so in spite of having these kind of feelings, negative feelings, how we should respond to that feeling, situation, for that awareness is required. And most of the time what happens, because of our mind is conditioned in such a way that we don't stop, we don't pause, immediately we react. And that's the reason this particularly this actually whole material world is known as the place of quarrel, fights, particularly Kali Yuga. Kali Yuga is known as the age of quarrel. See, all around, people's ego is so strong, that's why the quarrels are taking place. And nobody wants to budge. Nobody wants to compromise, generally. And that's the reason the things keep on going on. So you're right that forgetfulness, it can be good also, but depends in what context you're using it. So then Brahma created three modes of nature. And these three modes of nature, these are the basic ingredients for the whole material creation. And people, they are divided in according to these three categories, modes of nature. Now, what are these modes of nature? Mode of goodness, mode of passion, and mode of ignorance. Now, it is not that, that if somebody we say that, in mode of goodness, that person is purely in mode of goodness. We'll never find like that. Nobody will be only just being influenced by one mode of nature. We are affected by all three modes of nature. But which one is the predominant one, that will decide what category we belong to. like demigods. Generally, mode of goodness is more prominent there. That's why they are higher. And we human beings, we have this permutation and combination of these modes of nature. But at the time of birth, what kind of mode of nature is influencing the person, that will have impact on that individual throughout that person's life. That's why the time of birth is very, very significant. Time of birth, and before that is time of conception, is very significant. So these things in detail, I will not go so much into detail, but these things are mentioned in detail in Bhagavatam. And Brahma gave this knowledge. This knowledge is stipulated in our scriptures. How we can live in this material world, so that we don't get entangled in the material world. And then after finishing our work, we can just get liberated, freed from the material world. Everybody is looking for freedom, right? Yes or no?
Yeah.
Depends what kind of situation, right? But generally people, even though when they face any situation, initially it may give comfort, pleasure. But the same situation after some time makes a person feel miserable. And that's why a person wants freedom from that situation. This is the basic characteristic feature of the material world. Even the pleasure also doesn't last, right? Sadness, misery also doesn't last, but pleasure also doesn't last. The same object which gives us pleasure, that can become the cause of misery. For example, food. When we are hungry, we attack on palatable food, right? But after our stomach is full, if somebody tries to give us more, we get irritated.
Torture.
Sorry?
Torture.
Yes. Same food. So this is the quality, characteristic feature of material world.
I think divorce and marriage.
Huh?
Marriage and divorce, same. After some time you wanted freedom. Yeah, right?
She's speaking on behalf of all married couples. See, in that situation, in that regard also, the Vivav Samskara, it's mentioned Samskara, right? Main basic 16 Samskaras out of 64. So Vivav Samskara is one of them. So depends on how it is done, how the partner is chosen. So if the things are followed properly, then actually it doesn't make it so miserable. It can become like a blessing in disguise also, right? Like one man, he went to see one astrologer, told him, that I feel so miserable. I just got married, new young woman. So the astrologist checked his, then he, just tolerate for 6 months. So he says 6 months after that, the planetary position, after that you'll get used to it. So because these things, we experience sadness, distress, happiness, pleasure, and all that duality. This is the basic characteristic of this world, and that also happens on this Earth planet. So Brahma created this. I will come to that part again. Created the 3 modes of nature, and then he initially created 3 different levels, spheres of the material world: upper planetary system, middle, and lower. And then he divided those 3 into 14 planetary systems, right? Does anyone remember in one of the sessions we talked about that 14 levels?
Loka.
Huh?
Loka.
Yeah.
The 7 good ones and 7 niche.
7 upar, 7 niche.
That's what makes it 14 now.
So what about our one? Ours.
We are right in the middle.
So we are at the 7th levels. 6 ऊपर हैं, 6 ऊपर और 7 नीचे. So we are in the middle. And Brahma's loka is the topmost, Satya loka. But still, the upper planetary system also is in the material world. Many people, this also we talked about, many people they think that Swarga loka is like liberation. It's not. Misconception. Huh? Vaikuntha is the yes, spiritual world. No, demigods they cannot go to the Vaikuntha planet. I mean, it's not that they cannot go, but they have to come to the earth planet first and they get liberated. From the heavenly planets, they cannot. Generally, they do not go. It can actually logically it makes sense. They are already the higher level. They can go easier the Vaikuntha planet. But because, of course, we can. Human beings they have higher chances than the demigods because demigods they don't have desire to get liberated. Why don't they desire to have liberation? Sorry?
They got all the comforts.
Yes, yes. So, I mean, in our case also, when the life is going smoothly, who would be interested to chant? Who would be interested to read from the scriptures? But when the misery comes, then our prayers can be very, very sincere. They will literally, practically will come from the depth of our heart. And those prayers, because they are so sincere that time, they are answered very quickly. Most of you must have experienced that, right? So, for that reason also, it is said that misery, apparently which may look a miserable situation, that can work as a blessing in disguise. That can help us to evolve spiritually, grow spiritually, and go closer to Krishna, to Vishnu. When we are comfortable, then very difficult to remember him. The souls who remember him in the good times also, they are very fortunate. They are blessed. Now there is a saying, right? There is a, I think it's Kabir's dua. दुख में सुमिरन सब करे सुख में करे न कोई जो सुख में सुमिरन करे दुख काहे को है. But now see, literally it sounds good, but generally people they also see that people are doing worship and all that, they suffer a lot. Devotees also suffer a lot. Then how can we validate this kind of statement? जो सुख में सुमिरन करे दुख काहे को है. But actually, Krishna, in one of the sessions, I said, Krishna fast forwards the karmic reaction for the devotees. He does not want his devotees to come back to this material world again and get entangled. So, what they are supposed to suffer few years later or few births later, just fast forward, bring them in this life itself. That's why some devotees they feel very miserable. Their life also ends in a very miserable way. So sometimes people who have insufficient knowledge or lack of knowledge, they think, oh, what's the use of doing this deity worship and all that, bhakti? What's the use of that? Because bhaktas also they suffer. And on the contrary, we see people who do not believe in these kind of system, they are flourishing, thriving, right? And for devotees, it becomes sometimes difficult to survive, but other people are thriving. So this is kind of, this is bewilderment created by Krishna's energy, Maya. People who are not qualified, who are enemies of Krishna, Krishna wants them to just stay away. He'll bewilder such people. They won't have faith. But devotees, in spite of going through the miserable situation, their faith will not be shattered. They will welcome those miseries. They'll say, this is Krishna's prasad, helping me to grow spiritually. Right? So when people have that kind of consciousness, purified consciousness, it doesn't matter if materially, in the material world, from the apparent uh, perspective, we see that they are suffering, but actually they are not.
Such knowledge cannot be obtained from one lifetime, unless you start young to understand that.
Yes and no.
It can't happen that you are now in a miserable situation and that you realize, oh, okay, it's for my good, my karma cleaning. It's not. I mean, I personally don't see that because I used to think just like what you said, what was the point? Because I've seen 3 cases, heart devotees, literally, you name it, the word seva is part of their life.
Mhm.
But I've seen their end is so miserable. And that's when I question, then what was the purpose of their entire life doing that seva
Mhm.
when at the end they are in such misery?
Mhm.
It's okay, later you understand there are days you will accept it, but there are days you say, no, but then how can this become an example to someone else? They'll say, why will I do seva? Look at that person's life, like you said.
Yeah.
You may say, no, I don't want to have the kind of misery at the end.
Mhm.
So it's really something you need to ground yourself from a young age, this kind of
Yeah. So
not just
see,
in the middle.
you were absolutely what you said. It makes sense, but the answer is yes and no. Right? For some people, it is not necessary that they have to start from childhood. I give you example. The analogy we use: a spark, like spiritual knowledge, like a spark, fire spark. Now, if spark touches a dry grass, it will burn immediately. And if that spark falls on an iron rod, no effect. So depends on, we were talking about the modes of nature. Depends on which mode of nature the person was born in. So yes, initially he may be engaged in other different kind of activities, but later on that spark, that some incident in the life will change the person's life completely. And those kind of examples also you must have seen, witnessed in life. People all of a sudden they change. And for that reason it is said every saint has a past and every sinner has a future. So we should not judge people, because in that kind of situation, according to the conditioning of the mind, they are behaving like that. But that doesn't mean that if the person is to be corrected, we should not. If something is to be said to the person, we should. But we should not keep on holding the grudges against the person because of that particular incident. Am I making sense here? Yeah. So yes, it is not necessary that from childhood. Of course, it's very well and good if somebody is trained from childhood is well and good. Then the person can make this life as the last life.
Like you said, one misery could change your thinking and
Yes.
give you that blessing.
Yes. 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 Like see, the discouragement also happens if our consciousness is not purified. Then if we are going through some kind of misery due to a past karma, past bad karma, so sometimes that can shatter our faith, can discourage us. That no point continuing this thing, right? If we are also suffering like other ordinary people, then why should we do? Why should we bother? But here comes the test. I just share with you, one man every day without fail, he would go to the temple evening time to attend the evening aarti for 25 years. Evening aarti. So 25 years continuously was doing that. In the villages in India, the flooring is not strong, not tiles and all that, clay there. So same spot he would stand and he would bow down. So because at the same spot for 25 years he was bowing down, he made a hole there on the floor. So one day after the evening aarti finished, the pujari came out, the one who was offering. He went to him and he said, last night Krishna came in my dream and he gave a message for you. The devotee said, oh, what message? He said, whatever prayers you are offered, he is rejecting it. Your prayers are not accepted. The man started dancing. That man who heard from the pujari, he started dancing. Pujari stopped him. He said, are you crazy? What's the point of you being here in the temple? From tomorrow, don't come. He said, I will come. I'll come twice from tomorrow. Pujari said, you're really mad. God has rejected your prayers and you still want to come. He said, so many people come every day to the temple, right? So Pujari said, yes. But see, God just focused on my prayers. Today is rejected, I will purify myself more. Tomorrow I will accept. And there are so many unfortunate people, God doesn't even bother about their prayers. At least now he's paying some attention to my prayers, right? So this is called faith. This is faith. But for us, again, when we are influenced by mode of ignorance, then whatever scriptural knowledge, Vedic knowledge also we may have, at that time, we are not able to take advantage of that. So what we should do at that time when we are influenced by mode of ignorance and our knowledge also is not helping us at that time, or we don't want to take help from that knowledge, just pause. Let that influence of that mode of ignorance pass, and then things will change. You must have learned the tenses, right? Past tense, present tense, future tense. Try to understand, try to equate our vices with these tenses. I'll ask you a question. Why do we get angry?
Desire is not fulfilled. So you get angry. There's something you want, and it doesn't happen.
Now, why do we want something? Why do we have desire to have that particular thing?
Because you think it will give you happiness and fulfillment.
That means we must have that experience of that thing, that it made us happy before. So we want to experience that happiness again. We want that again, right? Cognitive memory,
Yeah.
right? Sorry?
Or we see somebody else.
Yes,
Yeah.
correct,
Experience it.
correct.
Yeah.
From somebody else's experience,
Yeah.
correct? That means it's past. So the tense of anger is past, past tense, based on our past experience. We feel angry with somebody because the person behaved in certain way against our desire, against our wish, or said something. We don't get angry, oh, person is going to behave like this tomorrow with me, so I should get angry with the person now. No future tense, past tense. So we have to, in primary school, I don't know the education system we don't go, but primary school we were given that kind of test, change the tense, right? So we have to change the tense. Yes, yesterday that person told us something like that, which we did not like, hurtful. Tomorrow the person may improve. Then we won't get angry, right? The attachment is from present. We have now, we get attached. Change the tense. We can change both past and present, past and future. Yesterday we did not have, tomorrow we may not have. So why should we get attached? Am I making sense here? So these things, when we train our mind, then even the conditioning also of the mind can change. The conditioning of the mind, sometimes, when it is not in good condition, conditioning is not good, it can make us feel more miserable. Now, each individual's conditioning of the mind is different. That's why the reaction of each individual in the same situation is different. Some people may feel very miserable, very small thing happen, they shatter, right? And some people are not so much affected. Conditioning is different. Now that conditioning can change with our spiritual practice. It doesn't matter what kind of conditioning we had when we were born, but now it is in our hands to change that. So when we change that, then our reaction to different situations, material situations, can be quite different. And that is the purpose of human life. We need to retrain ourselves. Our conditioning of the mind is according to our previous training, the training in our previous births, previous lives. So by Krishna's mercy, if he is giving us opportunity to learn from scriptures, read from scriptures, share what is mentioned in scriptures, so we should take full advantage of that. If we don't take that, then Krishna also cannot help us. He also will raise his hands. Instead of we surrendering him, he will surrender. Right? When they were constructing the bridge between Rameshwaram and Sri Lanka, so the monkeys were touching the stones, Nal and Neel, they had the boon. If they touch the rocks or any object and throw in the water, it will float. So it's not that because they were writing Ram, that's why the rocks were floating. The rocks were floating because the Nal and Neel, they were having that benediction. And all the monkeys, they were bringing the rocks, asking them to touch and then throw in the water. Do you know that incident?
I knew it was Ram. I didn't know the name.
Sorry?
I thought it was Ram, the word Ram.
It was not the word Ram, Ram's name made the rocks float. It was the Nal and Neel they touched. But what happened when they were throwing in the water? Of course, they were floating, but they were going here and there. When they started writing the name of Ram, they got united. So this is the strength of the word, the name Ram. It brings people together, integrates our energy, not segregate. So they were dispersing just by touching. They were floating but dispersing, but they came together. Then they could construct the bridge. So Lord Ramachandra said, that my devotees, my ordinary soldiers, they are touching the rocks and throwing in the water, floating. Let me do that also. So when he took the rock and he threw, completely gone down, sunk into the water. So Lord Ram looked at Hanuman. Hanuman laughed. Ram said, why? That Nal and Neel, they are touching and they are throwing in that. But and Lord Hanuman said, if any person you give up on that person is gone. Nobody can save the person. But if you bless somebody, if you hold on to someone, you don't discard that person can float, that person can cross the ocean of material creation. So the point I wanted to make, that we should take full advantage of this. Krishna has blessed us, so should take full advantage of this. At least that much we should remember, that we have to take full advantage of this birth. We don't know when we will be qualified to be born again as a human being. This also a few times I have mentioned in the discussion. After a few thousand of years, when we are qualified to take birth as a human being, no more temples, no centers like this where we can learn. And then that cycle will keep on continuously going on. So Krishna has blessed us, given us this opportunity, this human birth, healthy life. Should to take full advantage of that, right? So if anybody wants to add something or share something, ask some simple question, not difficult question. So I just want to share with you this again, before also I've shared. See, there's so many things we can learn from a small section of Bhagavatam. When we go into detail, from one slok also we can learn so many things. Now it becomes very difficult to complete Bhagavatam in 7 days. They have 7 days Saptah, Bhagavad Saptah and all that. So yes, people can eat. Of course, I'm not against it. That also, will have some positive effect on people's consciousness. But when we want to learn it properly, study it properly, then we should give proper time, enough time, sufficient time.
So when we do the 7 days, actually the person who's keeping the 7 days, they only do the prayers 1 hour, but actually the priest reads it on his own, right?
Yeah, the priest reads for morning, afternoon, then he summarizes it. In the evening, when he does 1 hour katha, he just summarizes it.
But actually, it's not just 1 hour a day. It's actually the whole day that they're reading. He just
So they read for the whole day, but they summarize.
just listen to it 1 hour a day.
नहीं इंडिया में जब भागवतम रखते हैं जो लोग रखते हैं I have attended 3 hours in the morning, then go home lunch, and again 3 hours in the afternoon. By the time 6 बज जाते हैं. Still, for 7 days I've attended, and yet you have not covered.
Yeah. So in Hong Kong, it's just
so
like
difficult to
1.5
cover
hours.
in 7 days.
Yeah, see what you said, you're right, and with Anushkaji also is right. Even in India also, see nowadays, it's very sad, it's very sorry to say that. I'm not happy to say that, but it's the current situation. Even in India also. So the priest reads. Some family members who have time, they will sit, right? But most of the people will come in the evening when the katha is done, when the priest is summarizing, katha vachak is summarizing. That should not be the case. When we say 7 days Bhagavad Saptah, so all 7 days, whenever the Gatha is being read, the people should be present there. But unfortunately, that doesn't happen. Different factors, different reasons, people have, but unfortunately, that doesn't happen. And because of that, that sincerity is not there, dedication is not there, then the effect also won't be there. Then people wonder, that we are such nice devotees, then why Krishna is not listening to us, why he doesn't answer our prayers. That famous Arti, Jai Jagadish Hare, Bhakt Jano ke Sankat Kshana mein dur kare. So people complain, Bhakt Jano ke Sankat. So there is a condition, you have to become Bhakta first. If you are like Thagat, not Bhagat, then how Krishna can help you? Thagat means a cheater, We can cheat people, but we cannot cheat him. He is the bigger cheater. Right? So we cannot cheat him. भगवान ने हमें बनाया, हम उसको नहीं बना सकते हैं. Right? So yes, so unfortunately that's the situation. Even in India also when they do Saptah, and that also I think in one of the sessions I said, why did it start 7 days? Parishit Maharaj, he had 7 days, so he heard for 7 days. 24/7. Even the speaker, Shukadev Goswami, he did not get up from his asana. No drinking, no eating, no sleeping, nothing. See, now this also is the effect of our consciousness. When we get properly absorbed, we transcend these material qualities. We transcend. Then this material energy will not affect us. What to speak of getting absorbed in the glorification, hearing and discussing the glorification of the Lord. Even the material object, a gross example I am giving, liquor, right? When the person is intoxicated, no matter how much the other person slaps, no effect. Only when the person comes in senses, then only, oh, somebody beat me up. If the liquor has that kind of effect, doesn't affect us at that time. What to speak of the nectar, the glorification of the Lord? How much effect that would have on us? That can have on us. Then this material energy will not affect us. So 7 days, 7 nights, they were listening. And another example is given in the Bhagavatam itself, in the 6th canto. 6th canto, Hajamil, and another canto of Dundukari. Right? Have you heard of Dundukari? Gaukaran and Dundukari, two brothers. Right? This also one session. So Dundukari also, when he died, so the sages told his younger brother Gaukaran that his brother died avgat, that means very unglorious death, and because of that he is not able to move forward. So he had taken the form of a ghost, Pret Yavni. So to liberate him from that species of life, he should hear from Bhagavatam. So Gaukaran did the katha again for 7 days, and that's the reason we have that either the bamboo stick or the sugarcane stick with the 7 knots. That's compulsory also. That also is a tradition, because Gaukaran, when he wanted to start, when he sat on the Vyasasan to start, Dundukari could not stay at one place because he did not have gross body. A little bit of flow of breeze, the air would sway him away, take him away from that path. So he said, how can I stay? So then Gaukaran asked the sages. The sages said, that you get a stick, sugarcane stick, which has 7 knots, and ask your brother to stay in that. So that Dundukari stayed in that. So after each day, completion of each day's katha, 1 knot would break. Then at the end of the 7 days, all 7 knots broke, and then Dundukari got a very divine form, Chaturbhuj form, like the residents of the Vaikuntha planet. The residents of Vaikuntha planet, everybody has 4 arms, like Lord Vishnu. Samarupa. Same Rupa, same form like Lord Vishnu. So that dedication, sincerity is required, discipline is required. And unfortunately in Kali Yuga, These things are very, very difficult. Very difficult. But we should not get disheartened, even though we don't have these kind of qualities, so much of patience to sit at one place for that long and listen. Whatever little bit also we are able to absorb, imbibe in our consciousness, that will help us a lot. Little bit also. That will help us a lot. It will not go in vain. Whenever we need the most the help from him, he will be there. So we should not just measure in the quantum wise, quantity wise. Quality is important. Little bit of sincerity. I mean, with little bit of sincerity, we imbibe something that can help us.
I have a question. Why Devi Devtas have 4 hands? Just now you mentioned 4 hands. Any particular reason, or just like we have to therefore?
Not all demigods they have 4 hands. Not all. Not all devtas. Even some Devis like Durga, she has 8 arms, Ashtabhuja. But in Vaikuntha planet, in Vishnu Loka, Narayan Loka, all residents have 4 arms.
So no reason, just that's the way it is.
That's the way it is. Yeah. So Lord comes, we say that this also is in a very subtle way, the human arrogance. We say Lord Vishnu incarnates in the human form, right? Generally it is said like that, right? Actually it's the other way around. He has made human beings like himself. Human beings have got the form like him. The original form, Krishna, has only 2 arms. Vishnu has 4 arms. Vaikuntha planet, Narayan has 4 arms. Chaturbhuj. But Shama Sundar 2 arms, holding his flute. So Krishna, out of his kindness, he has given human beings same form like his own form. It's not that he comes in the human form. He comes in his original form, and the human form is his original form. So we are fortunate from that regard also. In that regard also, demigods they are not so fortunate. Human beings are, and that's why demigods it is said they are queuing up to be born as a human being. They are just waiting when their pious activities account is finished, and then they get opportunity to take birth in the human form. So from that perspective also, we are very fortunate. Anything else? Yeah.
One question out of this context. Shishupal had 3 eyes. He was born with 3. Was it something of that type? And then one, like why I remember because we're talking about four arms and 3 eyes. So then his 3rd eye disappeared. Or kya hua kya then? And then he always had the anger to Krishna that why I was born with 3 eyes. Or ऐसे कुछ था ना उनका आपस में.
Yes, not only 3rd eye, but he had 2 extra arms also.
2 extra arms. Oh.
Yeah.
And then
because he was coming from the original Vaikuntha planet, no?
Okay.
Originally, he was one of the doorkeepers, no? Jaya and Vijay.
Okay.
So there also they had 4 arms. So when he was born as Shishupal, and that was the last birth to get liberated to go back to the Vaikuntha planet after that. So in the last birth, he had 4 arms and the extra vision. Yeah.
But then later on, जब पंगा लिया उससे कृष्णा से, so 2 ही थे ना, 2 arms and 2 ही आंखें खुलते हैं.
So the thing was that this is a scriptural incident. When he was born, so when his mother saw, who was Krishna's aunt, that he was very unusual. It was very unusual form, right? Just can imagine if somebody has eye here. Actually, Lord Shiva looks very beautiful with his 3rd eye, but other person will look very ugly, right? Having 3rd eye, so he was looking very ugly. So even his mother also was quite shocked to see that. So she asked, that how come he's so unusual? So then there was celestial sound. The person who is supposed to kill him, if he carries him, his 2 arms, extra arms will disappear, and third eye also will disappear. So when Krishna went to visit his aunt's place, when he carried him, so his aunt, told him, that is it you are going to kill him? Krishna said, if I have to, I will. I will.
Then Shishupal, from childhood, he must have known that Krishna will be the one who kill me. That's why so much of.
And Krishna actually promised his mother,
Yeah.
I will forgive his 100 offenses, which would require capital punishment, but I will forgive him. And Shishupal offended him more than 100 times.
Because he had to die and go back.
Yes.
That was his curse.
Yes. 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 And that also, because he was inimical, that was a condition made, no? 3 births they will take, Jai and Vijay. 3 births they will take in the material world on the earth planet, becoming Krishna's enemies.
Also, enmity came from Shishupal was. Rukmani was to get married to Shishupal. So,
It's not that she was supposed to get married. Her brother was insistent. Rukmi was insistent that she should get married to Shishupal. That also because of the political reason, not because of anything else. But she was in love with Krishna. Without seeing Krishna, she was already in love with him. And actually, because they are not different, they are eternally together, eternally husband and wife. So she wrote a letter to Krishna. So this also, very briefly, we touched on this point. Of course, we'll discuss in more detail when we come to that part of Bhagavatam. When she wrote a letter, she sent that message through a Brahmana. When Brahmana visited Dwarka, gave that letter to Krishna. Now, Krishna himself could have read it, right? Krishna told Brahmana, you read it. Now, it was a confidential letter, right? A woman who wants to get married to a man, she is writing, expressing her feelings for him, and Krishna is asking third person to read. Why is like that? Because Krishna likes to hear his glories from his devotees. Krishna enjoys that. Out of affection, out of that sincerity, submissive nature, dedication, devotion, when devotees glorify him, Krishna also enjoys that. And that's why Krishna told Brahmana, please read it. He did not say, oh, this is my confidential letter, give it to me. He did not, oh, did you read it on the way or not? No, you read it in front of me. This is Krishna.
You said that they were like together for years, centuries, right? Rukmani and
They are eternally.
eternity. But he somehow, when you hear any glories of Krishna, or when you hear bhajans, it's always Radha. Not very, very rarely will you hear bhajans.
Yeah. Because Radha is Krishna's pleasure potency, Ladini Shakti. Lad, Ulas, pleasure. So that pleasure potency manifested in the form of Radharani. So, and it is said that in Vrindavan Leela, that Radharani is there, and then Radharani's expansion in Dwarka is Rukmini Devi.
Because even in temples, you see Radha.
Yes.
You never see Rukmani Krishna.
No, there are some ISKCON temples where Rukmini and Dwarkadish they are worshipped. Rukmini Dwarkadish. So we don't call Rukmini and Krishna. We say Rukmini Dwarkadish because that's in the Dwarka. Krishna is at Dwarkadish and his wife, consort's name is Rukmini. In that aspect. Yeah. That Leela. But Radharani is Krishna's eternal potency. Pleasure potency.
Not his wife.
Krishna got married also to Radharani. That's why Krishna is called Radhapati. He is known as Radhapati also.
But she was not one of the queens or something.
No, not married in Dwarka, but in Vrindavan they got married. In Vrindavan they got married when they were very small. Huh?
Childhood marriage?
Yes. Yes, you're right.
Childhood marriage?
Yes, they were hardly 5 years old.
Oh.
5.
Yes.
Oh.
And Lord Brahma is the one who performed the wedding ceremony. That tree under which the wedding ceremony was performed, that tree is still there in Vrindavan. When you go to Vrindavan, the guides will tell you, This is the tree under which Krishna and Radharani got married, and Brahma did that wedding ceremony.
When he went to Dwarka, then where did
Vrindavan, she stayed in the Vrindavan. Of course, in a physical kind of material, in the material manifestation form, she was still in Vrindavan. But in his Krishna's heart, she was always there. Krishna cannot be separated, and Radharani cannot. These cannot be separated from each other.
But in Vrindavan, like when I went, say that it's like one of those places which is so powerful that the priest told us that don't go out in the night.
Yes.
You can hear
After
the
sunset, you cannot.
Ras Leela, and if you try to go and see, you can become blind for
Yes.
life.
Yes.
Like, yeah, they say it's so powerful that people hear sounds till today in Vrindavan. Like it's
Someone they
really
said somewhere
powerful.
Sharad Purnima, I don't know, but they said they people dance there.
Not only Sharad Purnima, every evening.
You can't see, they have the power to see. It's too powerful.
One ISKCON devotee, Western devotee, he wanted to test, because he heard these kind of things, just to experience that.
Experiment. Okay.
He stayed there,
Where?
hid himself under the bushes, because they closed the door of that area. So he stayed there. And the next day in the morning, he was in the ashram. So when he woke up, he told his devotees, actually last evening I went there, but then they said, actually you're fortunate that you remember that. But what happened in that evening, he could not remember at all.
So he just fell asleep there and he woke up in the ashram.
No, he did not even remember that he fell asleep. He became maybe unconscious or something. But luckily, he found himself in the ashram, not anywhere else.
But see, means alive instead of being, like you say, blind or dead.
Yeah.
I have not heard blind. I've heard that if you go, next day you won't be alive. You'll be gone. So don't dare to go there. That's
See,
what I
first of
heard
all,
now.
ordinary people like us, even if we try to, do something to stay there and see, first of all, because we are not qualified to see,
Yes.
Yeah,
we won't be able to see also. We won't be able to see. What to speak of first? On the battlefield of Kurukshetra, when Krishna wanted to show Virat Swarup to Arjuna, he told Arjuna that with these eyes you will not be able to see that. Then he gave him Divya Drishti, divine vision. Then only Arjuna could see that. And Sanjay also could see that, because Sanjay also had got that divine vision from Vyasadeva. So they could see Krishna's Virat gigantic form. And Arjuna could not tolerate that. Then Arjuna requests, please come back to the original form.
So, talking about Divya Drishti, then Dhritarashtra ke samne when Duryodhan wanted to pakadna tha, so he gave that form.
Vishwarup, yeah.
Vishwarupa darshan. Others could see or no at that time?
Not everybody, some
TV
of
looks
them.
like they all could see.
No.
Whatever I know from serials, okay?
But it's good at least you're
I
watching it.
don't. I've never read a book in my life, so whatever I
No,
know,
not everybody. Not everybody,
but
only
उसमें
few
दिखाया
devotees.
था कि these main people, Bhishma Pitama and Dronacharya and few people could see Krishna's Vishwarupa darshan. So because you're talking about who could see,
And see that in that, I presume that you're talking about the same episode which I am referring to now. In that, they showed that Dhritarashtra also could not see. Huh? He could not see that Vishwarupa, but actually in Mahabharata it is written Dhritarashtra also could see. Krishna gave him that divine vision at that time to see that Vishwarupa. He could see it, and that's why he became so scared that how could his sons Kauravas could defeat, even though proportionately the army was much less. Pandava's army was much less compared to the Kauravas' army. But Dhritarashtra was very anxious, because he saw that Krishna is on their side. How could my sons defeat them?
and yet uska akal nahi khula, akal band.
No. Yes. So this is called mode of ignorance. No? When mode of ignorance is influencing the person, in spite of having that previous knowledge and experience, cannot come to his own senses. And of course, this is all arranged. It was arranged by Krishna because he wanted to revive Bhagavad Gita, which was spoken by him to the sun god, Vivaswan, millions and millions of years ago. But that knowledge became a bit dormant, not completely gone, but became dormant, inactive. So to revive that whole knowledge, he chose Arjuna to give that knowledge, and that's why he had to create that whole situation. That's why actually Vyasadeva in Mahabharata, he says, that we should be grateful to Dhritarashtra because of whose stupidity, that whole thing happened. One man's stupidity caused this problem, but which opened the doors of knowledge for so many people. So Dhritarashtra also is a character, right? His stupidity became the cause of our knowledge. Okay.
So have we started chapter 3?
Chapter what?
So we started Canto 3.
Yeah, we are discussing from Canto 3, no? Yeah. Yes, it's Canto 3. All these things are mentioned in Canto 3.
One thing very quickly. Now, I've heard somewhere that actual Dwarka is gone under the water.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So it's true.
Yes.
But then the temple which you are going, Dwarka temple, that is
That's not the original one.
not original.
Original Dwarka was made of gold.
Made of
Gold.
gold.
Yes, pure gold. And that's what they are finding.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes, everything. The pillars made of gold. Pure gold.
And people died there and they show all these things are there still.
Yes. Yeah.
I was wondering if the temple which they are showing every time Dwarka temple, that's not the one.
No. They have made at the similar spot, but that also not exactly that spot. Similar, that area. But that's not the original. Original one.
It's inside.
Yes. When Krishna left, he put the whole Dwarka get submerged into the water. Yeah.
And also, before, I mean, nowadays we have some many people who have Yadav surname, So is it some connected to Krishna?
What's her name? Yadav.
Yadav. Because that's what I used to think, that
No.
maybe that's Krishna.
You can understand from their activities, right? Their activities are not that Yadu dynasty activities. They claim like that, but actually that's not true. Even some people, they have surname Raghuvanshi, right? But that doesn't mean that they are from Raghukul.
And Yadav lineage and all that stuff. They're politician also named Yadav.
Yeah, so this is what she's saying, no?
So not the lineage.
Not the lineage, no? Because their activities don't match with the original Yadavas. Yeah. So yeah, they use these surnames just for their advantage. Yeah.
Nothing linked to them. That's what.
This is we call deception. Kalyuga, the place of deception, the age of deception. So people, for their own advantage, they will use these kind of tricks. But they are not originally like that. Okay, thank you. Hare Krishna.